great to finally be chatting, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. After
Thought it
all
might be thought it might be amusing to start the video like this with a lot of headspace.
absolutely.
um, I know I've spoken to you before in chat, and I love your work. Backlash is one of my favorites. Spider and Rose, I just love this stuff. And I was so thrilled and really excited when I saw that you were making this film. Also a little bit perplexed if I'm being honest with you because I didn't know you'd written the book at this stage. And obviously there's the other movie, The Way, and the title confused me a little bit. So can you sort of talk about the reason for the title and just even a little bit of insight into your own journey before you wrote the book?
Sure. The so what happened was in 2013, I walked the Camino de Santiago, 800 kilometers. I It was tough for me. I had a lot of trouble with my knee. I got to Santiago and I was expecting some kind of epiphany as to why I had done this walk and put myself through so much pain. That epiphany never came. So I came back to Australia and I decided to write a book basically to try and find closure
Mm,
and really, in a sense, to complete my walk. Um, I never had any intention of doing a film.
yeah.
Um, you know, the and in a way, writing the book did sort of complete the walk for me. Um, I had not at that point seen The Way, the
Hmm.
film. um, because I didn't want my Camino to be influenced in any way by that particular film.
Yep.
Um, and in fact, I didn't see The Way until after I'd written the book for the same reason.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and so the title wasn't influenced by that film at all. Um, The Way is called The Way, and I decided to call it The Way My Way because I was taking in the book, it was a very personal
Mm,
approach. Um, I wanted to do the book. I want instead of the book being a geographical memoir of my walk, I want it to be an internal, metaphysical,
uh-huh.
like memoir.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I do love the title ultimately. Like it feels very personal right from the get-go before you've even seen it. So it's fair to say that what's in the film is very accurately depicting your story.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to do, particularly with the film, was to capture the tone of the book, which is quite humorous at times, but also quite serious as well. Um, and really capture the authenticity of what I went through.
Hmm.
And so for that reason, I decided to cast the pilgrims that I walked with 10 years earlier.
Yes, it's awesome. I wanted to talk about them and I'll get to them in a minute. But what I found fascinating, what I was going to ask you, which you've already answered, was, while you were walking it, did you have a movie in mind as you were going? So what I might pivot to instead was, um, when you were writing the film based on your book, did you have marker points along the way of your walk that you knew you were going to return to? Um, and was it shot chronologically? Like, because I imagine it would be difficult to shoot along a trail that's
Yeah,
not
incredibly
chronologically.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredibly difficult. Um, we we traversed the Camino, I think, three times through the making of the film. I wanted to, and that was because of availability of actors and stuff like that. Like Balash had had a limited availability because his father had an 80th birthday, which he had to attend to and stuff like that.
Sure.
So we sort of went backwards and forwards. But one of the things that was really important for me in the making of the film is that I kept the geography absolutely accurate. Because I knew that this film would be scrutinized by diehard
Yeah,
you know, nerds.
absolutely. Have you had people that are diehards respond to the film?
Oh yeah, 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 and they give it their tick of approval, which is really pleasing. But for instance, you'd appreciate this, Glenn, if I would often have long conversations with the DP, the cameraman,
Hmm.
because he'd say, well, if Bill comes up here, then his backlit going to look really beautiful. I go, well, he can't do that because that's walking the wrong way along the Camino.
Yeah.
He's walking back to St. John. He has to go that way.
Yeah.
So well, he's going to be frontlit. It's going to look awful. And I'd say, well, I don't care if it looks awful.
Mm,
It has to be accurate.
it's true. Yeah.
We end up making it look beautiful, of course, but there's nothing in that film that is not absolutely authentic to the Camino.
That's awesome. Were there places along the way that you wanted to shoot at, but they were just tricky to get to, and you had to abandon the idea?
Not really, no, because when I decided to make the film this way, I decided that I couldn't do it with a big full crew.
Hmm.
It's going to be too cumbersome and too unwieldy within the confines of the Camino. So what it meant was that I went with a stripped down crew, but everybody was absolutely perfect for their role. And it meant that I could be whippy and I could be agile and I
Yep.
could respond to light, I could respond to weather. And it meant that we could slip into the ebb and flow of the Camino and sort of be invisible. And that's really what I wanted. If I'd done it the other way and sort of done with a bigger crew, then I would have had to lock down sections. I would have had to, you know, take control as
Hmm.
you do when you're making a movie of locations, all that sort of stuff. I just didn't want to work that way.
Did you have to stop and start it all with other pilgrims sort of coming through?
Um, no, not really. No, I
Mm.
mean the idea of this type of shoot was for us to be pretty much invisible.
Yeah.
People came through. We then stopped them later on and got their release forms and all of that.
Yeah. That's
Um,
very cool. That's very cool. What sort of shape was Chris in when he signed up for this?
oh, Chris lost weight. He was very diligent. He he was I think it took him a little while to kind of click into the ethos of the Camino.
Hmm.
Um, and for anybody who hasn't walked a Camino, that's understandable.
Yeah.
But once he did, he was right onto it. I mean, I think his performance is one of the best he's ever given.
Mm, completely agree. I've loved him over the years as well, and what I found interesting, it's not the first time that him and Jennifer have played husband and wife because they were in A Street to Die, back in '85.
Exactly.
Have the three of you remained close friends over the years?
I wouldn't say we've remained close friends, but Chris has been well. He was in Kiss or Kill
Hmm.
and nominated for Best Supporting Actor AFI award. Um, we've I wouldn't say we've remained close friends, but we've maintained a professional relationship during that
Yep.
period of time. But the thing about Chris is that he's a very subtle actor. He doesn't make a big show of the process that he goes through. But my goodness, he's clever.
Yeah. I'd love to chat with him and pick his brain. I tell you, he is. He's
Mm,
an amazing actor. One of the best the country's ever had.
yeah.
Was he always your lead in your mind?
No, at one point the film was going to be a big budget film.
Hmm.
We went out to Pierce Brosnan, a couple of big name sort of actors. I was always uncomfortable with this. This was at a time when the film was going to be done for 12, $15 million, that kind of thing.
Mm,
And it never felt sat right with me because I just knew that I couldn't capture the true authenticity.
mm,
It would be a Hollywood production. Um, anyway, it ended up we couldn't get the cast that the sales agent in Hollywood needed to finance the film, and so the whole thing started to putter out.
mm.
And that's when I thought, well, I've got to take this back and take control of it and do it the way I really want to do it. Which is to do it smaller and have more control over it.
Yeah, awesome. Um, Regarding Jennifer, like she's fantastic as always. And you guys have had obviously a working relationship and a marriage over the years. Was there any reluctance in her reenacting something that's so personal?
I think so. Yeah, we haven't really talked about it, but Jennifer is a very practical person, and we talked about, and I offered, to cast somebody else in that role. I did offer her that opportunity,
Mm,
but she said no. It made sense for her to do it. And she's a trooper. She goes back to seven little Australians. She started in this industry when she was 16 years old.
yeah.
One of the things about Jennifer is that she's and like Chris as well. Chris is the same thing. They come from the old school of it's a job, you do it, and you do it professionally, you do it as best you possibly can.
Yeah, I just imagine it'd be such a weird sensation to be reenacting something you've lived already with somebody else. It's just an odd thing, but it works.
You mean with Chris?
Yeah, like she's playing herself with him playing you essentially.
Hmm.
I just think that's such an odd thing mind space to be in.
Well, it was sort of important that that happened because I couldn't make this film uh, thinking that that was me.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, Chris, I always referred to Bill in the third person,
Hmm.
as a character being somebody outside of me,
Yep.
and that was really the only way that I could make the film. Because if I'd invested too much personally in the character, then it would be a temptation to make decisions out of ego or vanity,
Yes.
or to protect myself, that
Yeah.
personally to protect myself, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so that's why I always regarded the character of Bill as being somebody removed from me.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, awesome. And when you mentioned before, casting the real pilgrims that you walked with, which is just amazing. I didn't even clue onto that until the very end when you show that photo. I'm like, wow, that adds a whole new layer and perspective that I need to go back and watch again. How did you convince them to come back, play themselves, and was it challenging to get such emotional performances out of non-actors?
Well, to answer the second part of that question first, it was incredibly challenging. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do as a director, and one of the biggest risks I've ever taken as a director, I've got to say,
Mm,
because you see the film now, it slips through. It doesn't look like a big deal, but because everything is so truthful and so real. But believe me, Glenn, to get those performances was inordinately difficult.
yeah.
Um, the How it happened was that after I walked the Camino, I stayed friends with these people.
Hmm.
Uh, Jennifer and I went to Hungary and visited and stayed with Balázs and Laszlo. We went to Bergamo, sorry, in Italy, and stayed with Ivan and Giovanna. And so we've maintained a communication and friendship over the years. Uh, and so when I decided finally that I was going to go this route
Hmm.
and work with them, um, I called them up. And so it wasn't like a voice out of the blue that they hadn't heard from for 10 years.
Yeah.
We'd stayed friends.
Yeah, the scenes, I mean, there's so many great scenes, but there's a scene like where you're all sitting around a table, talking about reasons for doing the pilgrimage, and I just it must have been so like drawing blood from a stone, I imagine. Like, because I'm not an actor, I couldn't just sit there and let it pour out of me like that. It must have taken a lot.
It was a tough scene, that one, because, it both, in particular, both Balázs and Laszlo do
Hmm.
open up their heart. Um, but and I didn't really control that. Um, what I was doing was I was off screen, out of shot. I was whispering in Chris's ear, you know, ask this question, ask this question. Because by nature I am an interviewer and an interrogator. My wife calls me an interrogator, and so I'm always curious about other people. Um, but that's a very powerful scene, that one,
It
and
sure
it's
is.
yeah. And I put three cameras on it, and I just let it rip.
Yeah, one take.
Yeah, yeah.
Just incredible. How did the walk change you as a person?
Um, it changed me quite considerably in a whole lot of different ways. It, I now sort of divide my life into my years pre-Camino and my years post-Camino.
Right.
The change has been that pronounced.
Mm,
But it doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen in a thunderclap. It happens over extended period of time. But basically, the biggest change I think has been in it's made me more humble.
Mhm.
It's made me more grateful. And I think it's made me more empathetic.
Yeah, awesome. One of the themes in there, I think Chris says or Bill says, is that your possessions are your burden. Is that like a mantra that you live by now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I what the scene is about. The scene is a scene of Chris shaving,
Mm.
and he has a one blade plastic disposable razor. And he talks about how at home he had a four blade razor with a battery and aloe vera stripe. And he asked the question, when did my life go from one blade to four blades?
It's great. Yeah.
Where has the simplicity gone? And the Camino demands simplicity. And then he talks about how everything comes down to weight, and your possessions literally are your burden. You have to carry everything on your back. And if you take that philosophy back home, back to where you live, um, it can it can bring like real pronounced change to your life. I know so many pilgrims who come back from the Camino and immediately go through everything and send to St. Vinny's or sell
Yeah,
on
right.
eBay stuff that they thought that was important, but they realize is not important at all.
Yeah, it's a kind of reminder we all need, I think.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. Likewise, there's a scene in there where Bill says, forgive yourself, and there's just that brief moment when he looks directly down the lens of the camera. Was that an intentional break of the fourth wall, or was that just something he did sort of on the spot?
It was something he did on the spot, and it's interesting you picked up on that moment, Glenn, because it actually is. I think it's a very important moment.
Hmm.
It and he does it with real assuredness. So it doesn't look like it's a mistake. It's he does it with absolute confidence and surety.
Yeah.
And I could have easily cut around that, got rid of it, but I felt that it was a really important beat to have in the film.
100%. See, I do react very emotionally to movies, and that scene gave me chills. And I'm thinking while I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, is that the decision of the filmmaker? Is that the actor making that call? It was such a powerful and beautiful moment, but it's so fleeting. And I hope people pick up on that because it is wonderful. Um, we're almost out of time. I just want to pick your brain about a couple of things before I let you run.
Mm.
Firstly, this is your most personal film, hands down, as far as I'm concerned, what I can tell. If you remove this film from the conversation, I'm wondering what film of yours is most personal otherwise. It's like asking to choose children, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking, films that I'm most proud of are probably Malpractice, which
Hmm.
very few people have seen, which went to Cannes in uncertain regard. A Street to Die, certainly. Um, Backlash. Um, I think one of the hardest hardest films I made was In a Savage Land, which I think is underappreciated.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, Glenn. Look,
The problem is you make good films.
well, very kind of you to say. Look, I'm 71 years old now, almost. And most of the films that I've made were made like two generations ago, and like a lot of people haven't seen them. And what I'm trying to do is now get the rights back and digitize my earlier work so I can put it up on a website. Um, but I got to say, this current film, The Way My Way, is if I died tomorrow, then I'd be happy that this was my last film.
Hmm.
I am very proud of it.
You should be. You should be. It's fantastic. So once you've made a film, you sent it out to the world as you have now. How long is it generally before you start thinking about your next project?
Oh no, I was up at 3 o'clock this morning writing it.
Oh, well, yeah, you're onto it.
Absolutely,
I love that.
absolutely. Oh no, no, no. There's no time to waste.
Awesome and awesome to hear. And I will be there, front row center. Well, maybe not front row because it's not the best seat in the house, but you know what I mean.
Thank you, Glenn. And
Awesome.
listen, you reached out to me some time ago, and saying that you like Backlash just absolutely gladdened my heart, because not many people know about that film.
It is a remarkable film.
Well, thank you. It just sometimes, like I just forget that there are people that see this stuff.
Mhm.
You know?
The fact that you said that you'd love to digitize all of these, just that is what speaks to me, because I would do anything to have these all in my collection behind me. Like you see, I love film, and to have those, a lot of your early work I have, from old VHS copies that have been transferred to disc. So I would absolutely love to have them all digitized. That'd be
Well,
amazing.
thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much for the chat, and I do love the film, and I just hope that everybody that's heard this or read the article will be inspired to go out and watch it. And I'm going to go and get your book now and read that.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'll let you get on with your day.
Thanks, Sam. Lovely to meet you, like, in person.
Absolutely. Maybe one day we'll meet in person.
I hope so.
It all started on that holiday in Spain. The Pilgrims.
Pilgrims?
Hey,
Hey, the lift, mate.
no, I'm in training.
Training?
Yeah, I'm going to walk the Camino de Santiago. It's an 800-kilometre pilgrim's walk in Spain.
I am hoping that after this Camino, I won't have to apologise for you anymore.
Are you Bill? Yeah, I'm Balázs. Well, nice to meet you. Here comes Leslie, yeah. Hi. Oh, no, don't hug.
I'm Rosa. Home for the night?
Do I have a turn-down service? That's a joke. Do you sleep well?
No, there was someone snoring. Farting.
That's disgusting.
Ce n'est pas la bonne route.
Ah, bonjour, madame. Bonjour, monsieur.
Somewhere along the way.
I don't know why I'm doing this walk. I want to let the walk give me the answer.
Hope you find what you're looking for. Somewhere along the way.
That is bone on bone. You will not be able to continue your Camino.
We'll see about that. That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Water. I need water. I see this walk as an 800-kilometre long cathedral. This is the Camino. Miracles happen all the time.
Somewhere along the way.
Safe journey.
My friend. My friend Camino.
Hope you find what you're looking for.
Hey, sweetheart. I'm a pilgrim.
Somewhere along the way. Somewhere along the